Yes, good morning, viewers, and welcome to Focus on Parliament today. We are discussing the issue of the coffee agreement that was signed between the Ugandan government, that's Ministry of Finance, and Vinci or Vinci Coffee. I don't know if that's the right spelling. But what we are discussing mainly is the parliamentary aspect of this agreement that the Kimanya Kabonera MP, Abed Bwanika, presented the bill, the agreement in Parliament last week. And his concern was that the bill is unfair, the agreement is unfair to the farmers in the sense that it creates a monopoly of who buys coffee and who the farmers sell to, and the tax exempts that where the government will not benefit from taxes. The Speaker, Anita Mong, referred the agreement to the Trade, Tourism and Industry Committee for scrutiny to see if there's the cost-benefit analysis of the agreement and if the tax exempts were done in accordance with the law. As we speak, the said committee is in a retreat over the agreement, and today we want to discuss what that will mean for this agreement, if Parliament can change anything right now about the agreement, and if its resolutions will be respected anyway. Here to discuss that with me, I have a panel, and I'll start from my left. Alex Atwaire. Alex Atwaire is a journalist, proprietor of PML Daily and the Kampala Report. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Agatha. Thanks for having me on this Civic Space TV.
You're welcome, Alex. The next one is the representative of the farmers from the Bugisu region that I've brought here for the Bugisu being known for coffee growing. And she is Margaret Wakuri. Margaret stands in so many positions. I'll just mention a few. She's the current chairperson of FDC party in Mbale district. She is a member of the People's Government. She's a gender scholar, social activist, so many others. You're welcome to the show, Margaret.
Thank you, Agatha, and thank you for inviting me here.
The last one on this line is Lubega, Jonah Lubega. Jonah is a lawyer with Sefrot Center for Food and Adequate Living.
Yes.
And he's the manager of community empowerment at Sefrot. You're welcome, Jonah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Agatha, and I'm delighted to be on this show. And we are greetings from Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights.
Okay. So I'm going to start with, I know that the agreement has been discussed, everywhere, but I'm going to start with your views, all of you, the views you have of this agreement before we go into if Parliament can, if there's anything that can change now or if it has been taken by events. Alex, what do you think about this agreement that while citizens are crying that it is unfair, we have the PSST who is saying it is the best deal ever? What are your views?
Well, I have had the benefit of looking at the agreement and then the arguments on either side, and notwithstanding the very, very good arguments put forward by the Secretary of Treasury, I think for me and my experience in these public issues is that the problem is always the process that leads to the signing of the agreement is absolutely suspect, because one, the agreement gives the beneficiary on the other side a monopoly, and you are not sure whether the farmers will get any value if anything goes wrong with the agreement. Then number two, the person standing on the other side, the beneficiary on the other side, is no stranger to controversy in the Ugandan public affairs. This is the person who is implementing another project in the health sector, where government has invested heavily and the project was expected to be delivered. I think government has injected about 700 billion and the project was expected to be delivered by 2022, and we are here in 2022 and there is not even the foundation at the project site. So I mean, there is no reason that the public should not be apprehensive about the benefits or the impact that this kind of agreement or this kind of arrangement will, the benefits that it will bring to the farmers. One, because the process is flawed. Number two, the people who are involved suspect. They do not have any credibility of implementing a project in our public services that has been successful. Now, lastly, you see, be that as it may, I don't know why the ministry that is responsible for the sector in signing off this coffee deal, or the farmers, we have farmers associations, we have cooperatives in the Ministry of Trade. I don't know why there was no due consultation before this kind of deal was signed. So I will give this kind of arrangement no benefit of doubt, and we can cite examples of where single-sourced providers have been counterproductive. I remember in the purchase of helicopters for the army, this kind of deal that is signed behind closed doors and brought and said it's the best, completely counterproductive. In the disposing off of the Ugandan Commercial Bank, this was the kind of arrangement. It was absolutely counterproductive. So I am going to stand on the side of the doubting Thomases that this is not something that should have been signed in the first place.
Okay, doubting Thomases. I think in Uganda we are once bitten, twice shy. We have seen these things happen all the time, so that even if something would be promising, we would still have those doubts. Margaret, I want to ask you on the side what this agreement means for the farmers, especially that you have an agreement which has clauses like the company is the one that will determine the price, and the company has to, its capacity has to be satisfied before people sell to any other person or farm. What do you think that means for coffee farmers in this country?
Thank you very much, Agatha. And I think speaking from the perspective of a coffee growing community, sometimes, you know, this country, it takes you round and round and you don't know where to start. What I know is that this country is running under a liberal system, liberal market economy. And then here we are, the government saying it wants to give a monopoly to one company to sell coffee. Of course, we know that developed countries have in one way or the other they've had certain favors for certain companies in order for their countries to grow. But in Uganda, you really don't know the framework under which how some of these companies are selected, you know, because here we are as a country, right, and given the current situation where really we are so much indebted, and the country is giving more tax exemptions, and yet we need money. And when the nationals rise up and say, look here, can you also exempt us from certain taxes, or could you kindly reduce some taxes on fuel so that commodities can go down? The country says no. We cannot reduce taxes because we need the money. Now, like my colleague at HIRAD has said, you know, this is a country, this is even a UVCC, already that lady is suspect. You know, you cannot, all the money that has so far been advanced to that company, the Uganda Vince Coffee Company, I mean under the Lubowa, we would expect that at least for now, the money that has been given, there should be at least a share of that hospital. But there is completely nothing. I see only some little wire mesh around. And so it is, it's really unfortunate. And for me, I was looking at some specific things. You look at the government promising to supply this company coffee. And I was asking myself, where does government have like a garden of coffee where it is going to get this coffee to supply to this company? You know, supposing the farmers just cut down their coffee plantations, what will it do? You know? So, and then we also have a very, and you know, the promise is that it will supply the coffee, and yet we also have an experience of Bujagali, where government promised to consume all the electricity, and now we have electricity being produced. It is there, we cannot use the whole of it, and the government continues to pay money. So these are some of the contentious issues that come in when governments make these, when they sign off some of these agreements with the companies. Now, UVCC also has promised that it is going for all these things. It's going to, you know, tax concessions, protection against future taxation. You know, they have said in the future, if there comes a tax policy that that injures the company, you know, this current agreement will prevail. Like, it must not be affected by future taxation, electricity, extending electricity to the site, and of course, some of government responsibilities. And it is funny that some of even them come here as part of the agreement. I mean, the government is supposed to extend electricity and water to all places, but now here it comes as a favor. We are going to remove all of the electricity poles that are crossing the premise where the company is going to be located. We shall extend the electricity. We shall ensure that the electricity is there. And for all these things, they are saying the company is going to employ 246 people. 246 people, Ugandans, out of how many? You know, because I know there is an investment policy in this country. Does this 246 fall under the, is it 40% or 60% local content? And these 246, what positions are they going to be? Is it just heads, counting heads? And for me, from women's perspective, how many men, how many women? You know, from where? Are they sweepers? Are they, what decisions do they have? These 246 Ugandans. So I was, and like I said, coming from a coffee growing community, we have Bugisu Cooperative Union. Before COVID, it was employing 100 people before COVID. And that is after government had messed it up. You know, the fights that have been with the BCU, suspending the whole board, then bringing it back, and then the government paying it, and so on and so forth. So there has been a mess. But before that, BCU was paying, employing so many people, over 500 people in the BCU and then in the local societies, cooperative small societies that feed into the BCU. Now, it was paying its water, it was paying its electricity bills, it was doing everything on its own. It was educating. Up to now, by the way, BCU educates children of the community. and it pays taxes. Now here comes UVCC, they are not going to pay taxes. They are not promising anything else apart from these 246 people. So why the favor? Why so much? Why didn't these favors go to a local company, a cooperative like BCU, or this gentleman who processes coffee? What is his name?
Andrew Garcia.
Yes. Was he consulted about processing coffee? Did he have capacity? If all this money is invested in BCU, can't it do what this... Because I'm talking about BCU because it already has part of the infrastructure, like stores, like what, it has the networks.
And goodwill
of the farmers. Now, this is something just, we are all starting from zero and putting a lot of money at the time when we don't even have the money as a country. And so I think it is really, really unfair. Maybe finally on this is that there is a provision that the company will determine the price it pays to the coffee farmers. Company determining the price, and we are in a liberal market economy, and you know everybody wants to make profit. I think now when you go out to the outside this, you know that the beauty of cooperatives is that yes, there is a provision that it will not go below the international market. But we also know that sometimes the coffee prices go so low, you know, and that is where entities like cooperatives come in to shelter the local person. You know, when prices are so low, then the cooperatives boost. They top up the amount to keep the farmer at least at a certain level. But now here, you are talking about a company determining the price. And then so, which means that if the international price goes so low, I don't know how long it will take. If it is that low in a depression, the farmer will suffer. And like I said, coming from a coffee growing community, this is a total loss. And like you said, from the red card perspective, I would give it a red card.
Yes. So liberal economy, free market economy are the words we hear a lot from government. Every time we say prices are high at the fuel pump, prices of soap are high. So it really baffles me that now they are now bringing a company and conditions to curtail the free market economy that I've always said they will not interfere with prices of these essential commodities when Ugandans ask. And yeah, it looks like a government which loves investors more than its citizens, because that's what it looks like. But I am going to ask John Alwega to tell us about the setting of the price. You are a lawyer.
Yeah.
So when Margaret says, does government have a garden from which it will sell to this company? I understand her, because how will government compel Ugandans to sell to that? It's not that coffee gardens belong to government, as you would say natural resources or something like that. How will government ensure of that? And after that, the next thing I wanted us to talk about with you was the tax exempts.
Okay.
And what the implications of that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Agatha. This is an issue that should take us back to what Uganda as a country has experienced from the ongoing calamity. For example, we have COVID-19, and it has now to set us back to the drawing board to see whatever we are doing has to now to focus on bringing up our people and developing them. And whatever we are doing, Uganda, we should remember it is a constitutional republic with a constitution that was promulgated in 1995 with a full chapter on human rights. As you've said that, does the government have a garden? We can't say no, because it is the people that produce. So in this, when we are discussing to do issues that have been particular to the government, and we know that the government is for the people, and it has to do in the best interest of the people. So we have the full chapter on human rights, but then we are having ongoing activities that are going up. In this discussion, should we ask ourselves that is there people-centeredness in every activity that we are doing as the government? We have this VCC deal that is coming up, and many people are saying it is a raw deal. And then why should we not give it priority to discuss it fully? Looking at the constitutional obligations and this deal, I could say from the quick review done by Sefrot, we could take a conclusion that it is lying on the borders of illegality. And we see that if it is in that shape, we are seeing that we are on a time bomb, because agriculture is the center of our economy. It is the mainstay, as it is stated in every writing that is up, because it contributes almost, it has the biggest share to the contribution of our economy, and the people should be given priority. Why do I say it is on the center, or it borders the issue? It is on the borders of illegality, because when before my fellow panelists stated that there was no participation, the farmers weren't given priority, there was no consultation. So if we have no consultation, then we are demystifying Article 21 of the Constitution, which provides for non-discrimination. And specifically in this area, we're seeing economic discrimination taking place, giving one person priority over the others. And because I'm saying a person because it is a company,
Yes,
it is a
a
person.
legal person.
So right now we can say that coffee is something that should be given priority, because people are the producers and agriculture is the mainstay, and people rely on it for their well-being. Taking us back to our history, coffee, many people have grown up, studied on coffee, and people sell it and have school fees on it. So giving it priority should be the center, you know. So yes, we are not against agro-industrialization and everything, but everything that has to be done, we should follow the human rights obligations by the government, because it has those obligations. So now going back to the agro-industrialization still, critically analyzing the deal, if you analyze it, you are giving incentive to one party, but then you are not looking at the other party on the other side of the lake. Where are they going to be? Because NDP 3, it is a government commitment. It says it provides under agro-industrialization that there should be backward and forward linkages. In this deal, if there is no backward and forward linkages and only looking at this person, are you doing something that is beneficial to the public? Or are you now following your set obligations under the NDP 3 and Vision 2040, because it looks at development? So this now takes us back to that issue that the people, the producers, should be involved in every state of production, every stage. So it is a lot of discussion. This is in our perspective as a human rights organization, we see that this entire bill is tainted with discrimination and unequal power relations. I'm bringing in the issue of unequal power relations simply because of the human rights. And looking at the human rights-based approach, as it states that it comes in to reduce the unequal power relations. You see, we have poverty ratios. In the beginning, I talked about COVID-19 and that how should our government look at COVID as an opportunity. So the key opportunity here is using the human rights-based approach to reduce the unequal power relations. Is there any provision or clause in this agreement that this company that you are giving incentives, what is it going to do to the people?
Yes.
What we are only seeing is that it is only going to give, it is more of a blank check to the
benefit
company,
to the company.
because it is saying that it has to provide premium prices, and in this agreement there is no bar set for the premium price. And you are saying that under, I think, clause 2.4 or 4.2, which provides that it shouldn't exceed 60,000 kilograms that are produced.
60,000 tons.
Yeah, 60,000 tons. And Uganda produces something like
over 300.
Over
300,000 tons.
So yes, and you go on. Yes, we could say yes, it is given a curtailed in the 60,000 tons. But then you go on to say, if there is excess, you have the priority to export.
Yeah.
So if you're giving this company, looking at the premium prices, don't you see that other players are going to be ousted out of business? And if other players are ousted out of the business, who is going to suffer most?
Okay.
It is all a question of, this should be a question that government should ask itself, and going back to the people. And lastly, I could say that we are the Center for Food, and coffee is a beverage. Yeah. So it being a beverage, it is food. So in this agreement, we are not seeing any clause that says, okay, you are going to produce, because it is looking at giving industrialization to this Vinci to produce processed coffee. So it should go back and say, it should put curtails that you should produce to this capacity or to this quality, because we are seeing food is the leading cause of NCDs apparently in the world over. So if the agreement is silent over that, and it goes on to empower someone to produce, doesn't that lead us to a question that we are seeing something that we are going to now to start going back and say, why didn't we do this? And also leaving it open in the right to food aspect, if I may connect it back there. We are seeing that there is no curtailing in any way, that termination, when is it going to be terminated? Because you've not given it, you've left it a blank space to produce. So why can't we put clauses that in case of low production or poor quality production, because we know food is a leading cause of cancer, as I stated, but people, okay, there should be a clause that okay, termination can happen in this and this way.
Okay. And
we are only seeing a provision of force majeure clause, and force majeure is only looking at the unforeseen circumstances. What about if you produce goods that are of not of good quality?
Let's get back to that discussion later.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Alex, we have clause 4, which talks about the taxes that this company will be exempted from, including employment, meaning even its employers will not, its employees will not be paying tax.
Yes.
And where government, where the law requires tax, government undertakes to pay it. My question is, she mentioned Andrew Gasira, Good African Coffee.
Yes.
Why weren't benefits like this, why aren't they extended to Ugandan entrepreneurs like that? And what could you tell us in this aspect in relation to Good African Coffee and what it could have done in this sector?
Well, that's the question we have always asked, that you have local people who have gone through the to the grassroots. The fourth product came to the international stage and get hit because of the way things are structured at that level. Now, have the same view that government should actually be supporting these people. But then somebody comes out of the blue, has never done this kind of thing that we have scented to or signed on anywhere, to either be a success or failure, and the person is supported. And in that, with all those incentives, including waiving of taxes, including taxes on employment, that means that the workers will not be paying, remitting pay as you earn. And I don't know if the social security benefits, the lawyers can tell us, if under that arrangement, the person will also withhold the social security benefits from the workers. So it is absolutely strange, and it is one of the things, such contentious clauses on the taxes, it's one of the things that the parliament should scrutinize. Because at the moment we can only commentate and criticize and give our views, but I think the person with the constitutional mandate to review these things is Parliament. My only problem is if they have the bite to actually make a critical decision that can put a stop to some of these, either to the whole deal or to some of these unfair clauses. So unfortunately, we can only criticize or lament at the moment. But we should be able to, under even such arrangements, we should be able also to support our own people. If these people were being given a portion of this kind of arrangement, and maybe a consortium of 5 or so other indigenous or local entrepreneurs also being supported, maybe that would be a fair deal. But at the moment, absolutely unfair to local enterprise.
Okay, Margaret, I wanted to remind you of what the PSST Ramadan Govi said as the benefits of this agreement, and he calls it the best ever deal. And one of them is that he's saying farmers in Uganda don't export anyway. Even those who export, they export unprocessed coffee beans, which he says has meant exporting low value and cutting our earnings from coffee. He says if we exported processed coffee, we would get 5.4 billion per year. Why hasn't this convinced Ugandans, and particularly the farmers, that this is not a bad deal like we think?
Thank you, Agatha. You know, it's very interesting for the permanent secretary to say, indeed, of course, the coffee has remained unprocessed, but we should be looking at why it has. I think when the country plunged into the neoliberal policies, this government systematically killed all the cooperative unions, you know? And so right now, maybe it's only this cooperative union that has tried to survive through the turbulent times. And there are a lot of swings, you know, they are in government, instead of giving such incentives for it to advance to the level of maybe processing coffee. It's just what I was saying, that at least we have the smaller cooperative unions, that the small societies that already feed into the bigger cooperative union. There are stores, there is the processing of coffee. We have seen Elgon coffee, you know, with the best aroma in the world, you know. So, but the challenge is the resources, you know, maybe in terms of both human resource and then machinery, but the land is there, you know. BCU has a lot of land in Bugisu. So, if the coffee has not been processed, it's not because the farmers don't want to process the coffee. It's not because the local investors don't want to process. It's because there has been no enabling environment to help these people to make sure that the coffee is is processed. Who wouldn't want this price being fetched for the processed coffee? So it's really, it has been just briefly about the history that I know of BCU. BCU, after the collapse of most of the cooperative unions, the elders came and sat and said, no, we cannot let go of BCU, you know. And then they appointed the Honorable Nandala Mafabi as the chairperson, given his accounting background, because many people had become, you know, they were picking from the institution instead of building it. So he comes in and then he uses his professional skills and then revives the things. When it is thriving, the government itself goes and suspends BCU board and everybody. And somebody appointed by government takes over, you know. By the time things are resolved, was it one forensic audit after another? By the way, they did a forensic audit, and which exonerated that board that was suspended. Then they said, no, we query these findings. I think there should be an audit into the auditor that did the other one. Mm-hmm. That one also did the work. Still, there was no evidence found about maybe the loopholes in management. So government, what I'm trying to put across is that government has tried to make sure it frustrates BCU into growing, you know. And right now, BCU is competing, of course, with the local buyers, the Chagulanyis, the what, and so on. And they are all there, you know. So I am surprised now that the government again comes up to say, we are going to give you priority. We shall make sure it's you first get the coffee before any other person and so on. When a known entity like BCU that even supported this government to acquire its independence is there, it should have been supported. Mr. Rugasira is there. Everybody knows about him and his coffee. Who doesn't know about good African coffee story, you know? So for me, I think that those are the people who should have been helped. We are not against, no country has grown without such biases anyway. But there should be a framework. You know, like I said in the beginning, there is confusion in this country and it is deliberate. At one time, the country is singing, no, we are under a liberal system. Then at another time, they want to run and say, we want to practice monopoly. You know? And then you wonder, what exactly is taking place? If we say that, by the way, I am one of the people who thinks that this market economy cannot take us anywhere. It can't. You know, there is a clip that keeps running about the late Nyerere when he was saying that opening up a small country to a liberal market economy is like putting he equated it to fighting. You put a featherweight fighter with a heavyweight fighter, yes, and you put them in the same ring. So this market economy also, the countries, there are some countries really where industries need to be protected. Yeah? And all countries, be it the Asian tigers right now, China, where England, the history is that they protected their country, their companies, you know. But in Uganda, what is the policy? Is there a policy to protect young industries? Can this policy be applied to everybody who can? I mean, for you look at the investment policy, the pricing that they have put to qualify to be given either land or something, you must, I forget the figure, but it's a very high figure. So much so that not many Ugandans can afford that. Yes. And unfortunately, even the people who come that we think have money, they end up not having it. They just go pretend to be investors, then they turn around, they work with I'm sorry, I will use the word thugs. They work
The
with
mafia.
the mafia in government, and then by the time you realize they also didn't have money, they again taking taxpayers' money. And so you wonder, so for me, it is an issue of clarity.
Okay.
Let us be clear.
Okay, thank you, Margaret.
Yes.
In 3 minutes before we take a break, Jonah,
Okay.
you've said Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights has reviewed the agreement.
Yeah.
If there was a chance of review and amendment, what would it want changed in the agreement that would, work in the interest of Ugandans and the coffee farmers or traders?
Yeah, that is a very broad question. However, in our perspective,
Or is it the entire agreement that you don't agree with the spirit of it? And
yeah, I was going to bring that language, the spirit, because every legal framework, every binding document, they have to interrogate the spirit within which it is brought, and then looking at all the squares and as it has been discussed prior, we are seeing that people don't know about it. It's more of a boardroom discussion, then comes out, then to the public, then it is already signed, it is binding, and it is something that which is difficult to go away with, and it is favoring the government. No, actually, it is favoring the company. So, in our perspective, we want to see that if amendment is possible, we need to go back and reduce on
the benefits,
the benefits that they have. For example, if you look at the number of employees that they are going to give, which is the 247, 46, is it, and it is favoring the company. What about the percentage that is under the Investments Code Act, which is 60%? So why don't they include the percentage rather than the number? So because the company will say, no, first we employ 247 as it is in the agreement. Yet the numbers, because we know right where we are going, many people are going in different countries to look for jobs. So and this company is not going to be it's not going to develop on a snail pace. If actually it decides to, it can even go beyond employing 1,000 people. We have seen those companies, but then here you're only targeting those 200 people. So that is not very good to the people. And also it being touching the aspect of agriculture. What should the company do to help the farmer? It shouldn't be left a blank check to them, saying that no, it's going to be the price, it is premium dictated by the company. If not, it's going to be dictated by the coffee board. So if now do we have a gate that yes, the board is not going to collide with the company to detect the price if it osts away other players in the industry? So all this now comes as to you go back and consult. Go back and see what do people need. Go back and see what does the different laws talk about agriculture, and in this respect, coffee. What do those people need? Do they have the necessary incentives? Are they given what is required to have maximum production for this company or even for export? Because you're going to find our industry is being tainted with different new areas whereby they are not addressing the already existing legal frameworks.
Okay, Jonah, let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll actually now discuss what I had said. We want to dwell a bit more on Parliament, a committee of Parliament reviewing this or scrutinizing this MOU. What does it mean? What can it change, or what will it change? We'll be right back. Welcome back from that short break, and thank you for staying with us. And we are continuing with this conversation about the MOU between the Ugandan government and Vinci Coffee to process coffee in this country, and what it means for Ugandans, and why Ugandans think it's not in their best interest, but rather in the interests of a company that has been given monopoly, right to determine price, tax exempts, and so forth. We were talking about Parliament reviewing, a committee of Parliament reviewing the agreement right now. And Alex, you said Parliament has the constitutional mandate, but you were skeptical it can change anything. What do you think Ugandans should expect from that review, which should lead to a resolution from Parliament?
Well, I think we need to give them the committee a benefit of the doubt, because it is a committee constituted by all shades of Parliament. And as I said, Parliament has the constitutional mandate to review all these policies and agreements entered into by government and recommend appropriate action. But over time, we have seen parliamentary authority or parliamentary mandate or parliamentary power being taken away because of the way Parliament is constituted. So my thinking is that even if the committee was to do a very good job and actually looks at the nitty-gritties and the details of this agreement and recommends the very, very progressive action points, my thinking would be that Parliament then would go back to that old tactics of how it is constituted, and so long as the government is interested in pushing through this deal the way it is, and this government, I mean, if government convinces the president that they want to do this the way it is, which I believe they will, and then he will beat the parliamentary NRM parliamentary caucus into line, and then the committee's work can always be vetoed. So I want to give the committee a benefit of doubt that they look at this and do a very good job. Even if the whole committee was not to do a very good job, I would expect the opposition members of the committee to come up with it, because there's a provision for a minority report. So we are. I want to give the committee a benefit of doubt that they will look at this and really prescribe a progressive course of action. But I'm worried that Parliament has the power to veto this agreement if the government wants it to go the way it is. And there are so many issues that this agreement should not be allowed to stand the way it is.
Margaret, are you as skeptical as Alex, or even worse?
Worse, actually, because he's saying he wants to give Parliament
benefit of the doubt. But you can't even do that.
Really, given the history.
I have given the committee.
The committee, okay. The committee may make recommendations, because what I see as coming out of Parliament is that maybe coffee growing MPs from, there's going to be pitting of MPs from coffee growing regions against the non-coffee growing regions.
But even those are many.
The
have
ones
the whole
of
of
Uganda and Bugisu
Uganda,
and then Western
Bundibujo.
Nile. Yeah, I hope this time they don't go with the so-called alliance of the ruling against opposition. If they go through coffee growing areas vis-a-vis maybe non-growing areas, that could bring in something positive. Because for me, from Bugisu, we are looking at them. We are going to see how they voice their themselves on this particular issue. Whether they are NRM or opposition or what, we expect them really to stand up and challenge this. And it doesn't matter how the parliamentary committee what resolutions come from there. We are going to have this on the floor, and we shall expect, at least let it be on record, that this one really stood against this. So if it goes into again NRM caucus vis-a-vis opposition, then there is no hope at all, given what we have seen going on in that parliament for the last so many years, and the last parliamentary session. And you know, Agatha, just maybe as I wind up, I'm saying maybe if it goes through coffee vis-a-vis non-coffee, but this country, as long as Mr. Museveni wants something, I don't know whether any of us here listened yesterday to the committee again of parliament that was investigating land. And they said people who got in Aguru land, all of them, their land titles were processed in one day. And then one of them was saying he got clearance from Mr. Museveni. And Mr. Museveni is on record for having lambasted the late Binaisa for turning State House into a clearing house. That is exactly again what is taking place, you know. So as long as there is some interest, because I don't know, I don't want to say this, but there is, it's all over on social media about this, I don't know how to pronounce her, but the board chairperson of UVCC being the one who is managing offshore interests of the First Family and so on. So if indeed it is true what is going on in social media, that this lady is really a front of maybe some 7 or the First Family, then there is nothing that is going to change. But it goes back to us, the community. We have to mobilize, because this is I think is a crafted, systematic policy of just wanting to impoverish the already poor population.
Okay. Jonah, these two panelists have they are skeptical about what Parliament can do in these circumstances, and their skepticism is not unfounded. We've seen many resolutions of Parliament that have been ignored. You can go to the 2011 oil debates and the resolution that came out of it. There was an ad hoc committee that was set up around the same time to investigate the irregularities in the electricity sector. And the report, I think I remember, recommended the termination of the contracts of Umeme and Eskom. And that never happened. And many others, many that have recommended the firing of some top officials. There was one against Richard Byarugaba at NSSF. So this is the trend, that even if actually Parliament came and said this agreement cannot stand the test of time, it shouldn't be on a legal document that the government enters into. The government can ignore it. What does that mean for constitutionalism, for separation of powers, and what are the legal implications? What can be done about it?
Okay. First of all, in the understanding of this, I may be skeptical as my colleagues, but mine is about it is a wake-up call to recollect and organize ourselves as the country, because it is a contractual undertaking, and anything, any contract that is entered into between two parties, terminating it, there are consequences you have to face, the person who is terminating it. Well, you've said that the contract that was wasn't terminated because of the consequences. Because in most cases, if you are terminating a contract, for example, if the Parliament says this deal has to be terminated, the government will bear costs for this. And because it is given a period of 10 years, the calculations may go even to 10 years, as it is in the agreement, what it would have lost and how it had invested and everything. So in my perspective, I could say that this could be a wake-up call for the forthcoming engagements, and how the Parliament has to recommend, should these agreements be signed before coming to the parliament or they should be signed after.
Yes.
So all that now comes, why do we scrutinize a
We do
contractual...
post-mortem.
Yeah, yeah, it is a post-mortem. Why do we scrutinize a contractual arrangement that has already been signed? Because in essence, if it is signed, it is even in force. So it is difficult. However, now as the government, this is a contractual arrangement that is affecting agriculture sector. What have you done? You as the parliament, what are you going to recommend on the existing laws to boost production? You see, this is it now takes us back to, if you want to follow what your commitments are under the Vision 2040 and NDP 3 of agro-industrialization, and indeed you're bringing up industries in the country. So what are you doing in the existing laws to make them operative among even the person who is the farmer on the ground, to boost production in order to achieve the commitments that are set up by the government? So in this, I see we have, as the government, the parliament, go back to the drawing table, and then we review our laws and policies, because we have very many laws and policies. We have the Agricultural Chemicals Control Act, we have the National Organic Agriculture Policy, all these food and nutrition policies, they are all now in bills, they haven't been passed. All these policies that are affecting food and agriculture industry should be revived to avoid all these errors that are being seen. If you are saying that other companies can't do what Vinci is going to do, what is the failure rate? Why is it that possible? Is it that these companies can't export finished products? What are you doing for the companies, and what are you doing for the farmer who provides these companies? Because they're saying that our products are being ignored at the international market because of the quality. But this quality comes from the produce. What are you doing to the farmer with the existing laws and policies? Because CEFROT stands for promoting economic, food, and climate justice. Because we are seeing many things. We have to bring justice in every aspect, as I've said, climate, economic, and food. So in the economic aspect, what are you doing for this person who is a farmer who produces for the market, to enable that farmer produce quality products? Improve the laws, let the laws be reviewed to have or to come to effect of the commitments that are set up. And yes, I would say I'm skeptical, because it can't be cut short. What can be done is reviewing it, because there is a provision in the agreement that says that it can be reviewed, or amendments. Yes, let me use this word, amendments. It can be amended to fit what the people would benefit from, participation and everything. Much is going to be said, but that is what I think amendment is possible.
Okay, thank you. Alex, with all this skepticism that you people express against a parliament, which is supposed to check the executive, what can be done to maybe for us to have a parliament that we can have that hope in, or is all hope lost?
Number one, the parliament has been overexpanded and so big, and the quality of representation has not, those studies have been done.
Yeah.
The parliament was expanded, so big, and the reasoning behind the expanding the numbers in parliament was give proper representation. But the quality of the representation has not necessarily improved. So I think, in particular to this coffee deal, if maybe the different shades, the different regions of farmers were very well organized, like the Bugis farmers, and they come and petition against some of the unfair clauses in this deal. Maybe that would help. There needs to be civil action. Maybe Parliament needs, maybe there has not been enough civil action that Parliament has that kind of support. In Kenya, for example, and we can always borrow examples from anywhere, everywhere, or best practices, there's a lot of civic action that if you sign such a deal, the Kenyan population is able to come in and advocate and maybe something is done. They do not look up to, they do not, because the way these parliaments are structured, even in the region, it's not only the problem of the Ugandan parliament, the structure is almost the same, but the difference is in the quality of the civic action that the populations can garner. So I think there is a need to look at that. I am aware that there has been laws that have been brought over time to curtail that kind of civic space and therefore make the populations less combustible. But a deal like this one is going to, the people going to be affected are absolutely the coffee farmers, and then they're the majority.
The traders.
And then the people who benefit, who make their livelihood through the coffee trade at that level are being cut off. So I would expect a kind of input from them when these things are being discussed. Maybe if we backed that up with the small goodwill we can get from Parliament, maybe Parliament would be able to do something.
Okay.
That is my view, honestly.
Margaret, one of Alex's issues that he raises in regard to how Parliament might not do much is the fact that the ruling party has the numbers. But we've seen instances where the opposition MPs are sort of shooting themselves in the foot. We can cite the speakership and deputy speakership races. We can cite this is Ake matter. When they wanted to remove him from the commission, you have members of the opposition who signed that petition. Where do you think is the problem exactly when it comes to Parliament and the decisions it makes, and how seriously they are taken?
Yes. Thank you, Agatha. Just before I answer that question, I want to go back to what my colleague from CEFRO said, that maybe we need to review laws. I want to disagree respectively that actually in Uganda it's really not about laws. We really have very, very good laws. Very good laws, so much if they were respected, this country would be far, far, far in terms of in development. But this, by the way, here we are just discussing an effect of a bigger problem that we have. If you know, it's you look at what we are discussing, something being done, then it is brought to Parliament for stamping. If you remember the money for jet fighters after the 2011, if you,
towards the 2011 election.
Yes, we've just been discussing the deployment in Congo, you know, when the soldiers were taken and then Parliament was asking what is happening, nobody knew. Perhaps somebody, my president who is celebrating his birthday today, said maybe even the Minister of Defense didn't know about the deployment. He also just heard from social media. You know, we have had so many instances where money is spent, then they bring the supplementary budget to Parliament just to endorse, to pass it when the money has already been spent. So there is disregard of the rule of law in this country. There is impunity. There is that focus on just being in power and not caring what the common person is. Because here we are looking at money here, you know. These things about UVCC, they are looking at something. Maybe they want money from the coffee sector. It doesn't matter whether the common person, the coffee grower, you know, the coffee grower benefits or not, as long as there is money to maintain the kleptocracy in power, this thing will go through. So really for me, I think that I agree with Alex when he says we need more civil action than depending on that. But indeed, you've pointed out that the Zake, even the people, you know, it's not now about institutions. It's about now people. Some people went there because of money, but then also, you know, there is you know, our politics of constituency vis-a-vis the PR system in Tanzania and South Africa. You know, under PR, where your party gives you and says, Margaret, you are the one going to represent FDC in parliament. If I go against my party position, they will call me. But now those members are there, they know that the ones who compete, they put in their own money. So when they come here, they are looking at money rather than their party position. So you really don't have any control as a party on the people that are in parliament. And so we are not going to have any solutions. Now, let me also draw you to a broader discussion. Because we cannot narrow this to parliament. Which institution is functional in this country? Which one? Health, the army, the police, or what? It's all about the judiciary. Everything is dysfunctional. So some of us have really, and you know, like the way the civic space is also now reducing so much that even what Alex is talking about is may not happen. You see these things that are coming out, the way they are beating people, it is meant to intimidate so that everybody is kept intimidated. So many times some of us have thought this country, we need to come to a talking point and we say enough is enough. Let us stop there. Let us start afresh. Let us talk, because we all belong here. We didn't apply to be born in this country. But you who is in the ruling government, some of the things that you are doing, they will also endanger you. Because if you ignore the health sector and COVID comes and you can't get on a plane to go and get treatment, you all die here like a fly, you know. So some of these things that we just need maybe to go in a dialogue as a country and say, you people, we have veered off the corrected path. Let us just get to a halt, talk, and ask ourselves, where did we wrong? Where did we go wrong? What should we do? And which path should we take? And come after this, nobody should take this country for granted. Because right now what is happening is impunity, pure impunity. Yeah.
And what is the People's Front for Transition? What is it in full?
Yeah,
the Red Card Crew. What is it?
It is the people's PFT, the People's Front for Transition. And that is what we are saying. Even PG, we have been saying the regime should come down and we have a national dialogue about the general Mr. Museveni and his people leaving power. Even if it means setting up a transitional government that is going to clean up this constitution. Because right now we don't have a constitution. That a transitional government, this constitution, it is watered down. The constitution is watered down. So you need a transitional government that is going to clean up that constitution. You need a transitional government that is going to bring dialogue about discussion on truth-telling and healing, because this country has bled. You look at now how the Kajongs are dying, you know. Look at how the people in the north died. You look at how the Muslims have been killed. Everybody has what they call a nugu, something, some anger somewhere. So there is a need for what these people in Rwanda did. or what the Acholis do, the matoput.
Matoput.
Yeah, so that people talk, and then you say, okay, I have forgiven you. You know, I tell you, you Agatha, you killed my parent. You say, okay, I killed, but it was under this circumstance. Then I say, okay, I have forgiven you. Let us move ahead. But the way we are going,
so we need truth and reconciliation.
We need the truth and reconciliation. We need the dialogue. We need the cleaning of the constitution, so that when we need to build all these institutions, you know, so that we have an independent judiciary, an independent parliament. But all these things can't be done with a government that is interested in perpetuating itself from power. In power, I mean.
John, my last question on this. The Attorney General, Chiwanuka Chiriowa, was quoted in the papers as having said that this agreement does not violate, doesn't go against any laws of this country. And another senior lawyer, Philip Karugaba, responded on Twitter to that quote of his and said, but it doesn't have to actually go against this country, but is it in the interest of the people? And the response from Chiwanuka Chiriowa was very confrontational. And what do you say? What do you say about those two? Something that is not against the laws, but also against the interests of Ugandans. Where is the compromise? What takes precedent?
I think I may not say that I'm going to harmonize the two stands, but I may also bring out something that may bring controversy in the public about this deal. And I would say that as I initially stated, that this Uganda is a constitutional republic, and it has a full chapter on human rights. And it also ascended to different international treaties and agreements which take precedence over anything. And human rights, as you say, they have different principles. Whatever you do that derogates someone's rights, you're not doing anything for their selves. Because even when you look at the chapter 4, it gives priority to the people. It gives the first priority is the people. And you say that if you go to the environment, it says that clean and healthy environment. So all this have to work hand in hand with the constitutional mandate. And ours is that, yes, ours is about a human rights aspect. And when you talk about people-centered, you are now talking about the human rights aspect or the human rights-based approach. How is your approach? In whatever we do, we should embrace that. Because if this agreement does not look at the person, the producer, and it looks at the manufacturer, there is a gap. So you may even find that it may even collapse in 1 or 2 years. Who knows who knew that company, they made the hospital is not in operation after the very many years of signing the agreement.
And so much money already advanced to the company.
Yeah, and that is even having very many, because we come to fight on different fronts of on the war, if it is the war, but for a common goal. And you see, ours is using the legal tools, because CEPHROT is a human rights-based approach, uses a human rights-based approach, which is basically using the legal tools. And with this, as we honor the legal mandates that are provided for under the Constitution and everything, because even when you see this agreement is a legal document, it will say, the company will say, no, the agreement tells us we are running for 10 years without being scrutinized at any point. That is a law. But then for us, we are saying, no, we use this front to revive what has not been given priority. If we have different laws that are in place that govern let me talk about, limit myself to agriculture. If we have the different laws, and you look, I stated that the Agriculture Chemicals Control Act, it is very old. It doesn't reflect the current development. we look at because section 6, section is it 12 or 18, it says that the minister has to make regulations which regulate chemicals. But then how is our industry regulated? We have the Market Act. It's very old, even pre-colonial, but then we are not seeing that into play. If we honor the legal mandate, if we honor what the Lord Mayor says, the rule of law, our country will flourish.
Okay.
Yes, and lastly, I see that if we can use different fronts, the petitioning, the dialogues, the campaigns. Of ours is the law. Because we even have different cases in courts that says no, marketing of unhealthy foods in schools, it is unconstitutional because it is a danger and it is a time bomb to us. So we use different fronts. We have courts, because if you use a law, if you use the judiciary, because the country is made up of three stones: the judiciary, executive, and the parliament, legislature. We see that all these stones have to be operating. If this one uses the other stone, this one will use the other and the other. So for us, we use the judiciary to pull upon the legislature and the executive to recall you that, no, look here, the law is saying this. Yes, very many things go off hand and they are not easy to handle. That is not an issue of political discussion. But this one, we are looking at the government going back to reconcile its mandates under the law.
Okay, thank you very much. Alex, your last shots on this deal, on the role of Parliament in shielding us from such bad deals.
Sure. I was under the impression that we are in the era of the economics that works. And quite obviously, the economics that works cannot advance monopolistic tendencies. I think if we are going to deal with economics that works and create monopolies in this era, then we are into something else. And then, of course, economics that works, you can't get somebody who has failed to implement a project in another sector. And then somebody actually wrote about it. You can't advance economics that works, then you reward people who have failed. So I think that, as it may be, I think this agreement needs to be reviewed, and there should be involvement of the farmers, either through their cooperatives or their societies. I'm a coffee farmer, by the way.
Oh, you are?
And we have a cooperative in Bushenyi there. I'm not sure they even know what is going on. So it's so unfair that you do make a major policy decision like that, and the people who are supposed to be affected by it do not even understand what. So number two, we need to involve the line ministry and other key departments of government. I don't think that the finance ministry should go this alone and see through this kind of agreement. Otherwise, it is a fodder for failure.
Well, we might be too late for that. Like we talked about it being post-mortem. But Margaret, please, your parting shots for the farmers. Is it doom or is there hope?
You know, just yesterday we're talking about the crisis in the economy, about the high prices and some of. And when you look at where we've come from, some of these things you did not even need to be a seer to know that Uganda is going to hit a dead end. And so there has been this joke on social media, people saying, I wish I was NRM. You see, for me, they are buying soap at 3,500. Why I buy soap at 10,000 shillings? So, but the whole thing is, I think they are devisers of this government. Sometimes you need to take pro-people approach, because sometimes when things turn out to be bad, they hurt all of us. You know,
they might be buying soap at the same price, but they have the money that other people don't have.
Maybe, but not all of them. Actually, not all of them. At least where I come from, I know so many. NRM villagers, they are all crying like
us.
Yes. So really, I would think that the people, for example, what Alex has referred to, the economics that works. How could he append his signature on such a document?
It's the economics that works.
No. And then again, it brings me back to what somebody was joking that really this country, you see the challenge of relying on only two people, that it seems you were only relying on Keith Muhakanizi and Leti Mutebire. Now when they all get out of office, now the economics is not working.
It wasn't working even before.
But I think for me, we are looking at Parliament, and I want to look at the camera and say, as parliamentarians, we, the commoners, are looking at you. Because
as your last hope.
Yes, we are looking at you, and once you cease to be of importance to what took you there, then you have left the mandate to the people. What now when people see that the parliament is no longer useful, certainly they are going to do things that are constitutional, but within their means. And that is civic action.
Yes.
Because the constitution mandates people that power, chapter 1 is about power belonging to the people.
Yes,
so if you parliament cannot do things that help the common person, you're giving way to this civil disobedience, and we don't know how that gets sorted, and we don't know how the country will be.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah.
In 1 minute, Jonah, just 1 minute, your concluding remarks.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that the program is coming to an end.
Oh, you still had more to say?
Yeah, every time
we
always have
this edition runs again next weekend.
Yeah, so here the issue is, and I'm very happy to see that the issue of human rights is coming at play. And discussion are saying people-centeredness, where are the people? The moment you talk about people in these spaces or in these discussions, you are now bringing up the issue of human rights.
Yeah.
And it should be a wake-up call for the government to consider that while doing any endeavor. We have the principles that have to be followed under the human rights-based approach, that is the participation, accountability, non-discrimination, and what have you, rule of law. So we should now, the government, we should scrutinize whatever we do through those principles that are laid out internationally. Even at the national level, we agree with them. But then my last shots could be that, yes, it being a wake-up call to discuss issues to do with agriculture. And we are seeing it at the high level of manufacturing. But what about this person who is the producer? Where are our laws? It is a wake-up call to revive and review our laws, which are very old to suit the current developments. We should revive the legal structure and the legal system to enable the production of safe food, and to achieve economic, social, and economic justice, food justice, as well as climate justice in this era.
Thank you, Jonah. Like I said, this program will be running every Saturday, so we can always revisit these issues that we haven't finished discussing. But just as I conclude, we have had many agreements that have been looked at as being in bad faith. We have the electricity agreement. She talked about the Bujagali agreement, where we have to pay for power, even that we have not used. Where we have to buy from Bujagali, which sells at a higher price, before we buy from even cheaper generation, like now Karuma and Isimba, which are done. And these are so many. So Ugandans are looking at Parliament as their last hope. I think these agreements should actually come to Parliament before, because we have seen also some instances where government has been taken to court for things like those, breach of contracts, breach of agreements. So even I think reneging on this agreement now would have those legal implications. So I don't know if the parliamentarians and the heads of that institute watch this show and if it's something they should consider seriously, that people now take their roles and that institution seriously and that they do what they are mandated constitutionally to do. But for us, we are going to keep having these engagements, these discussions, so that if Parliament doesn't listen, at least the people that vote for their representatives there can understand that what is going on. We thank you from Focus on Parliament. We thank you, panelists, for coming. And before we leave, Margaret talked about her president whose birthday is today. She referred to Dr. Kizza Besigye, in case you didn't know. And we also wish him a happy birthday from Civic Space and Focus on Parliament. He has played a very major role in the politics, the constitutionalism, and the liberation of this country that we don't know when it will ever happen. Thank you very much. Thank you to the camera crew. Until next weekend, it's goodbye.